Hollywood in the 1940s, a glittering mecca that seemed full of endless opportunity. Palm trees, fast cars, sunny blue skies, and movie studios with glamorous stars that looked like they could be found around every corner. A place where anyone with a little talent, a pretty face, and a bit of high spirits could become a superstar. Hollywood called out to young pretty girls across the country who dreamed of fame and fortune and arrived like clockwork at Union Station, looking to parlay their good looks and love for the movies into making their dreams come true. For most, those dreams would end in disappointment, but for at least one, that dream would become a nightmare. She was born Elizabeth Short on July 29, 1924 in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. Betty was a pretty girl, with porcelain skin, dark hair, and striking blue eyes. Like most pretty girls, she daydreamed of going to Hollywood and becoming a star. So in 1943, she packed up her dreams and headed west. For years, Betty bounced around Southern California, working odd jobs. She even got a little modeling work. She dated a couple of handsome officers who passed through LA at the close of World War II, but they didn't last. By 1946, she was doing housework and going out dancing, sometimes with married men. Mostly, like a lot of hopefuls who were young and pretty, she struggled for money and tried to keep her dreams alive. On January 9, 1947, after being out dancing the night before, she got dropped off by a married boyfriend at the Biltmore Hotel in Hollywood. She was supposed to meet her sister. She never did. Betty Short was on the brink of becoming famous, but for all the wrong reasons. 6 days later, on the morning of January 15, 1947, Betty Berzinger was walking to the store with her toddler in the Leimert Park section of Los Angeles. As she walked along the sidewalk next to the vacant lot along Norton Avenue, she saw what she thought were two pieces of a store mannequin. When she looked closer, she realized it was the naked body of a woman, cut cleanly in half. It wasn't the kind of place you would think you would find a dead body. It was a real nice family neighborhood, with real nice family lawns, and real nice family homes. Sure, there were some vacant lots where the war had interrupted the LA building boom, but there were also palm trees and sunny blue skies. There was nothing strange about this place, nothing evil. Not until that day. When the police got to the scene, they found a gruesome sight. Betty Short had been cut cleanly in half and carefully posed along the sidewalk of a nice, quiet suburb, with homes just a few hundred feet away. Elizabeth Short's body had been completely drained of blood, and there were deep knife wounds sliced into each side of her pretty mouth to turn it into a hideous smile. The autopsy showed Betty had been tortured during the 6 days she was missing. The newspapers were quick to blare out the headlines about the shocking murder of a black-haired beauty. Elizabeth Short had become the new most famous unsolved murder in LAPD history, now known as the murder of the Black Dahlia. A huge manhunt began. The LAPD questioned hundreds of potential suspects. The newspapers reported it in all sensational stories. Some suspects were even arrested. The LAPD first arrested Red Manley, the married boyfriend who had dropped off Short at the Biltmore. But he had an alibi: his beautiful wife. Then there was Leslie Dillon, a bellhop and aspiring writer who had once been a mortician's assistant. The LAPD always thought someone with medical training had to be responsible, so Dillon was questioned over and over by the LAPD, but they could never put him in the right place and the right time. So if he did it, why did he kill a stranger? And why did he never kill again? Some investigators think it had to be the work of a serial killer, because of the planning, the torture, and the elaborate crime scene meant to show off his work. But if it was a serial killer, why were there no more bodies put on display? What about Dr. Walter Bailey? He was never questioned by the LAPD, but he makes a decent suspect. He was a surgeon who lived just a block south of where the body was discovered. Bailey's daughter was a friend of Elizabeth Short's sister. Bailey died in 1948, and it was discovered he'd been suffering from a degenerative brain disease. Is it possible this had led to a psychotic episode? Others believe this disease would have made Bailey too feeble to carry it out, but it would explain why there were no more bodies. Finally, there is Dr. George Hodel. Hodel was a wealthy, highly secretive doctor who lived in a famously bizarre house in Hollywood. He was famously fond of sadistic art. The home had a dark basement. If Hodel had held Betty, no one would have known. He would have been able to drive through the dark streets of Los Angeles to a quiet suburb to post his artwork for all to see. In 1949, Hodel was accused of molesting his own daughter. There was a trial with more headlines. The LAPD finally began investigating Hodel and found a nude photo of Short and his belongings. The police began following him. But Hodel fled Los Angeles in 1950 and then lived in the Philippines until the 1990s. Does that explain why no more bodies showed up in Los Angeles? Hodel could probably find many victims that no one would miss in a country like the Philippines, where life was cheap. And there was a famous unsolved murder in Manila at the time when he lived there that has echoes of the Black Dahlia. Could they be connected? Was Dr. George Hodel a serial killer? We may never learn who killed Betty Short, or whether the Black Dahlia was the victim of a serial killer who was never caught. But we know Hollywood still calls to young women with its promise of glamour and movie stardom. They still come here from all across the country to follow their dreams, and perhaps all we have learned is that they should be awfully careful, because those dreams can turn dangerous. And sometimes, you never know who's watching.
Billy.
What do you want from me? Why don't you run from me? What are you wondering? What do you know? Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me? When we all fall asleep, where do we go?